Howdy. Hope everybody's doing well. It's gonna take a second to get completely set up, but not. Oh, wrong thing. There we go. Yeah. So just bear with me. There we go. That'll do. Okay. There we are. Okay. Hi, everybody. My name's Cthulhu, and, welcome to, SCP Book Club once again. It's been a second, like a week, in fact. I don't know why it's cropped like that, but whatever. There we go. My name's Cthulhu. This is SCP Book Club, the weekly series where we take a look at some of my favorite articles in the SCP Foundation, both as an excuse to talk about SCP more, because I like it a lot, and also to get myself to read, and to get you all to read, and to have a place to discuss SCPs, because, well, I think it's nice to be able to analyze it as actual pieces of literature. So, last week, we were introduced to SCP-055, one of the original anti-memetic SCPs. In fact, the original anti-memetic SCP, which I'm a big fan of, but it is only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to... Jesus, I am a hot mess today. When it comes to anti-memes, there is a whole big, wide, wonderful, terrifying world out there, and that's kind of what I want to get started with this week, which is why last week I assigned we need to talk about 55, which is the first article in a series of articles, a series of prose stories or tales called the Anti-Memetics Division Hub. In particular, There Is No Anti-Memetics Division, which is one of my favorite series on the website, and I think one of the best things to come out of it. It's even been published as its own book. Like, qntm, to be clear, is like a fully fledged, like, professional writer. So this is some really, really good shit that just happens to be SCP. We are so lucky. So, the introductory story of There Is No Anti-Memetics Division is we need to talk about 55, which essentially, breaking it down to its basic parts, you have Marion Wheeler, this weird, kind of, at first, very mysterious doctor who keeps forgetting things. gets called into an O5's office. The O5, or leader, one of the leaders of the Foundation, does not know who she is, asks her to explain who she is and how the hell she got security clearance. And turns out she's the leader of the Anti-Memetics Division, which handles anything that doesn't want to be seen or perceived. Let me see exactly where she describes it. There are ideas which cannot be spread. There are entities and phenomena which harvest and consume information, particularly information about themselves. It's a conceptual subculture of ideas consuming other ideas and sometimes segments of reality, sometimes people, which makes them a threat. That's all there is to it, really. Anti-memes are dangerous and we don't understand them. Therefore, they are part of the problem. Hence my division. We can do the sideways thinking that's needed to combat something which can literally eat your combat training. And then it turns out the assistant to this O5 is not real. He's an anti-meme who was the reason that this O5 forgot everything. Let me see if I can think she can describe. You were supposed to take a nestic. Oh yes, we're also introduced to the concept of nestics in this article, because in the Foundation there are often described these things called amnestics, or things that make you forget. Drugs that are meant to wipe your memory of specific events, or in some cases, with really powerful amnestics, a whole lot of events. Nestics are the opposite. Nestics let you remember things you're not supposed to. And that is obviously particularly useful for the Anti-Memetics Division, who are dealing with things that don't want to be remembered, that aren't supposed to be perceived. And so we get the detail that the O5 is supposed to be taking them. You can't skip. You can postpone, but you can't forget unless someone actively prevents you from taking it. There's only one person who can get close enough to you to do that, and that's your assistant. So the idea that these anti-memes are everywhere and take many forms. It's not just thing in a box. It's people wandering around, eating your memories, doing all these things. Marion describes, there's an invisible monster which follows me around and likes to eat my memories. 4987, don't look it up. To be clear, if you look up 4987, not the same. I've learned to manage with it. It's like a demanding pet. I produce tasty memories on purpose so it doesn't eat something important like my passwords or how to make coffee. So what this story does so well is establishes a status quo for the Anti-Memetics Division. That these things, that memory is just kind of a suggestion. That you're just gonna lose stuff. You're gonna lose pieces of your memory. She just offers up pieces of her memory to this thing to keep it from eating important stuff. Which is fascinating and terrifying. I mean, the whole terror of SCP-055, as we discussed last week, is the idea of memories going away, of losing memories, of something being able to reach in and take them out of you. And Marion's status quo is things reaching in her brain and taking memories out of it all the time. And she's just had to learn to live with it. And I think that's really interesting, and a really interesting setup for a main character. Marion is ostensibly the protagonist of this series. Not ostensibly, she is. She's the protagonist of the Anti-Memetics Division series, at least the first series. And the fact that she has just kind of... she bit the bullet and is just okay with these things. Not okay with, but has learned to live with things tampering with her memory constantly. I just think that's a very, very interesting topic. And I think that's a very interesting setup for our protagonist, especially. And it also makes you wonder, well, if she's not scared by any of this, well, then what does scare her? Because she talks about, how many other anti-memes are there? How much more dangerous do they get? 10 that I know of. Statistically, probably at least 5 more I don't know of. I mean, especially the fact that she is so okay with all this, and then it turns out, she says this whole thing. Who's Bart Hughes? He wrote the file. He's dead. What happened to him? You don't want to know. What would happen if we did know? It would happen to you as well. Just these little tidbits of, even Marion, who's seemingly so okay with being fucked with constantly, is afraid of something. Which, I mean, there's more story to tell. I won't say too much more, though, of course. 058 is also a fun character. I forget what they say his name is. Because Clay is the anti-meme. What is his name? Brent. 058 is Brent. And he's also an interesting character. We don't get too many details about him other than his office is very dark, he's got a lot of bookshelves, and he's very stern, which, you know, one of my other favorite details in the prose is, let's see exactly what they say about him. As for the fellow behind the desk, well, in O5 never looks like you can imagine. Basically telling you, the reader, no matter what image you can conjure up, it's not going to be accurate. Which is, I find it interesting for prose to like, yeah, I fucking dare you to try to visualize. I double dare you. Like, I think that's so interesting. And it's part of why I love qntm's prose. It does such a good job of both giving you these vivid visuals while also fittingly telling you that there are some things that you just can't accurately describe. Another one of my favorites is, of course, she talks about there are anti-memetics, or there are memes, you know, all this. Where is it? You know how we have Class A amnestics? Of course you do. Who could forget about Class A amnestics? Just these things about her, even with guns pointed at her, even in the face of danger, Marion is very flippant and very funny. And I think that's also a very compelling feature for a protagonist, especially given everything that we know about what SCPs can do. The horrible, horrible fates they can impart upon any of the people working in the Foundation, and she's just like, oh well, gotta, you know, get up and deal with it. But yeah, we get details about the Anti-Memetics Division, but we don't know much about them, which is also smart storytelling, given that this is only the first of 5 stories. Like, fact is, you gotta keep people interested. You don't want to give the, gotta bury the lead a little bit. And qntm does that very intelligently, gives us information in a very controlled, deliberate way. You know, we learn about Nestix, we learn about the division, we learn about Bart Hughes dying and that we don't want to know how he died. We learn that some anti-memes, like Clay, can just take over and can take physical forms, which is unsettling, to say the least. But other than that, we really don't know much. We don't know about anyone else who works at the Anti-Memetics Division. We don't know why exactly she's worried about things. We don't know what killed Bart Hughes. We don't know what she talks about there being 5 anti-memes that we don't know about, that she doesn't know about. There's a lot of answers given here that only further spur more questions, which is just smart storytelling, especially given that the whole point of SCP is, the quote I always go back to from Tale Foundry, it makes you ask questions by promising not to answer. It gives you little nuggets of information that only spur your imagination more and more. Again, you know, the O5 not, as for the fellow behind the desk, an O5 never looks like you imagine. Basically telling you, like, you're not going to know everything, and you're just going to have to come to terms with that, especially in a story about anomalies that can't be known, that can't be perceived. That is the whole point of this series, and it's basically right out the gate. This story does a great job of making you adjust to that certainty, the certainty of uncertainty, that you are not going to know everything. And that's okay. That's the point. That's the idea. And I think that's great. Also, again, Marion's just a great character. Marion, with so little information given to us, there is so much characterization given to her already. She's super forgetful and yet incredibly overcompetent. Very competent, very, flippant in the face of danger. A very solid introduction for our protagonist. I don't have much else to say about this article. Again, they loop back in on 055, and also the idea that these doctors forget about it constantly, which makes sense. Other than that, there's not much here, but there doesn't need to be. It's a very short, simple introductory article. It's good. It's a very good article. It's a very good tale. and a very fun start to the Anti-Memetics Division Hub. Now, next week, we are going to be discussing not SCP. Introductory Anti-Memetics is the name of this tale. It is definitely more on the horror side than the last one. It is pretty harrowing, I would argue. And we get an introduction to a new character, Junior Researcher Kim, who is also great. There's not really a not great character in this series, to be clear. But yes. I don't have much else to say, other than thank you for watching. Oh, actually, I'm gonna, real quick, I'm gonna link to some of the SCPs that I've written in the chat, because why not? This is the first one I wrote, SCP-7166, Never Strikes Twice. This is the second one I wrote, SCP-7351, Keep on Living. And this is a group of interest format I wrote that I am planning to rewrite at some point soon because it wasn't super well received and I didn't have too much time to put a lot of polish on it. So yeah, if you're interested in reading any SCPs that I've written, feel free. Also, I've been thinking about, and if there's interest for it, I would like to get SCP authors on the show and have them discuss the articles that they wrote. Obviously not entirely demystifying every aspect of them, but at the very least, tell us about what they were thinking as they were writing them, and what they were intending, what they wanted to accomplish with these articles. I think it'd be cool to get some insight. I think it'd be nice to have a forum where authors of SCP articles can sort of talk openly, because I feel like there's not really a dedicated space for that. So yeah, if anyone's interested, let me know. If any SCP authors out there are interested, hit me up. And that about does it. So yeah, next week, actually, why don't I drop a link to Introductory Anti-Memetics in the chat as well. For next week, read Introductory Anti-Memetics by qntm, the same author as We Need to Talk About 55. And I'll see you guys next Saturday. Maybe doing some extra streams next week, stay tuned. Otherwise, more of the same, Silent Hill, Skyrim, and SCP Book Club. May change it up, we shall see. Either way, have a good rest of your weekend, have a good Labor Day weekend.